Welcome to today's edition of the AI Eye, watching stock news, deal tracker, and advancements in artificial intelligence. Hello everyone, this is Sam Mowers here. Welcome to a special edition of the AI Eye podcast featuring an interview with Mansoor Khatib, the CEO of GBT Technologies Inc. GBT Technologies is a development stage company which considers itself a native IoT creator developing Internet of Things and artificial intelligence-enabled mobile technology platforms. GBT is traded on the OTC Pink under the ticker symbol GTCH. Also mentioned in this podcast is Trend Innovation Holdings Inc., which trades on the OTC Pink as well under the ticker symbol TREN. Now in this interview, Mansoor provides an update on the company's growing IP portfolio, discussing the various technologies and domains it is working on and in. Without further ado, here's my latest conversation with Mansoor Khatib. Hello, Mansoor. Welcome back to the show. Thanks again for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, Sam. I'm happy to be here and give you a little update about GBT.
Well, for viewers or listeners who might not be aware, might not have caught your last appearance on the show, could you just give us like a bite-sized update on, well, tell us a bit about GBT and where you're at these days.
Okay, perfect. So GBT is a technology company. We are specializing in microchip technology or, fast-growing technology. And we changed our business approach around 2.5 years ago when I came on as a CEO. And we are basically, since then, we are considering ourselves an IP company, basically building an IP portfolio of intellectual property. And we want to grow this portfolio over this year to hopefully down the road license it to large companies.
Great. So as you say, the last time we chatted was a couple months ago, I reckon. And I highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen that, check that out, even just for background. But it's interesting in its own right. But in that chat, you discussed, as you say, the company's pivot and strategy and the focus on R&D, building the IP portfolio. At the time we spoke, GBT had, I believe, 10 patents approved with 26 pending. Can you give us an update on those numbers, the IP portfolio, and maybe go into what domains they focus on?
Yes. So first of all, we are not a huge company, so for everybody to know. But I think we have been very, very successful, at least from my point of view. We now have approved 14 patents approved. That means that from last year to this year, we basically increased patent approval by 25%. And we have 25 pending, maybe 26, because we just had another advancement. The numbers are always a little bit fluent, but overall, I'm really, 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 really happy with the progress we are making, because towards the end, we want to maybe have 60, 70, what gives us a base and good protection. The areas we have, and again, they are sometimes a little bit fluid because we came out of an old time in 2019, 2020, and then when we started into the new project, we kind of tried to define the different areas. But I can just tell you, number one, we are in a semiconductor hardware. We have a 3D multi-planar chip. This is hardware. Then we have EDA software, what is basically microchip design tools. Then we have AI. We have our own AI we call Avant AI. We have a tracking technology for asset tracking and tracking or location tracking, what works without GPS, what is very, very important because it avoids the monthly fees. We have patents in the IoT and mesh network arena. Mesh networks and databases and management of databases is the future. We have some areas of health and telemedicine. We have a computer vision system, what we call Apollo, and I We'll talk about this a little bit later. And then we daggle because of the mesh network and the networking and the database. We also have two different technologies, what is basically radio networks and long-range radio networks. And so eventually all those areas, they're kind of fold into each other and they support each other. And those are the main areas.
Now, as you say, one of the biggest areas of R&D for the company is the artificial intelligence. Not only the Avant and the Apollo, which we'll talk about a bit more in depth in a bit, but there's a lot of interpenetration of the AI in the other domains. Can you briefly talk about actually Avant AI and maybe bring viewers, listeners up to speed on its recent big news?
So, number one, okay, so we had finally a proof of concept. So I'm talking to our investors the whole time. Always says, look, our goal is to take our technology and eventually sell it or license it. We did an earlier deal end of last year, what hasn't really worked out yet, but I'm proud to announce that we just did a deal where we sold or licensed AI, our Avant AI, for around 26 million shares, and to a company called Tren, or the company is Trend Innovation Holdings. It's a holding company who's exactly in that field, and their stock price is around $1.50. So it's a huge deal for us at that stage. And we will see how it's consummated. The big thing about this deal is that we retained certain rights for the software, so we can use the software for our own software packages, and that was one of the conditions for this to move ahead, that we could retain some rights, and we have retained them. And so now we just hope that Trend does what they want to do. Eventually, I cannot talk to them, but basically go to the stock exchange, NASDAQ, rise up. And that means that it would be a really good deal for us down the road.
For those who might not be aware, though, could you give people a taste of what Avant actually is capable of?
Yeah, so let me explain this. So there's a lot of confusion about AI and what it does and what it doesn't do. So number one, the way I explain it, I will explain it in a simple way. We have a core package, Avant core package, what we call Avant AI. We registered it as a trademark. And this core package, we believe, is very comprehensive and very fast. It can take massive data and work through data in a very, very fast way. However, there are two parts to it. There's this core system, and then there are skins. I call it skins. Other people maybe say it's something else. And the skins are actually the functionality. So I give you an example. The core system, maybe you want to build a stock trader, because right now everybody is about stock. You want to build a stock trader. The core engine would maybe look at all the data from all the 19,000 stocks for last 10 years, and do the calculation. But now you would build another part on top of it, what actually would execute the action or this other search, the other search terms or triggers alarms. What people don't understand is this whole AI the whole AI economy is really 4 parts. So let's say 3 parts. It's the AI technology itself, then the hardware to the AI technology, because there's hardware to it, and I will get to that. And then there are what I call skins. And then there's actually what is the functionality, what comes out of the functionality at the end. So when you look at the AI, there's companies who develop the AI, there's companies who just want to do the functionality. And then there are companies, we, for example, have developed a 3D chip, what has theoretically a lot of memory. And that would be actually the chip, and our Avant was at one time actually an AI collaboration. They're both kind of developed itself out of itself. So that's why we retained AI. And then, of course, you have, let's say, you take an AI engine and you do arbitrage trading somewhere for oil or something like this. Then obviously that makes money. And that's really where also there's a lot of money. But a lot of money is going to be made in those 4 sections. And we basically integrated that we now have the 3 main sections of AI covered. We can build skins. We have our core engine. We can take the skins and develop for other people specifically, but hopefully down the road also develop the chip and make that chip really AI friendly.
Now, just going back to the sale of Avant, as you discussed, in what way does that play into the company's overall strategy?
Yeah, so basically, I mentioned this is proof of concept. We want to eventually be growing this IP portfolio in different areas, and eventually we want that larger companies take some of this portfolio and say, oh yeah, I like to go on that 3D chip, or I like to do the AI, or I like to do Apollo. And then we would license this or sell the technology to them, and with that create an income stream. If we can license it, we have a long-term income stream, what we can leverage and actually make money. And my whole argument about the change to IP was that because we are good at building IP, I'm building much faster shareholder value for the shareholders and for the company than if I would concentrate on building a little gadget or building something else and getting into sales, etc., etc. I know it's tough, but it's basically that we now made this deal. It's proof of concept that there are actually companies out there interested in our technology.
Now, we discussed Avant, and in our last episode with you, we got into the chips quite in depth. And again, I highly recommend anyone who hasn't watched that, check that out, because the chip space is crucial. But I'd be remiss to let you go without talking about Apollo. You've mentioned it a couple times. Could you give us a bit of an intro on Apollo?
Yeah, so let me just say, so we have like 3 major areas. What is obviously the chips, the 3D chips, the hardware for the chips, and then AI. And then we have some sub areas. And I mentioned radio technology and mesh technology because, I always said to my son, everything will be data in the future. And so, and he's still upset that he took some statistics from, based on my advice. So, however, so we have radio technology, mesh networks, what is future. We have pattern recognition, what is security, cancer screening, other things. And then we have Apollo. And the reason why I like Apollo is because it's easy to explain. Apollo is basically a little box with some antenna, like a box at home, where it sends out radio signals in different frequencies, and they bounce back. It's like a little radar station in a sense, but of course, those radio signals are not, they're not dangerous in any sense. And it can read the environment of your house. It's like a video game. Whatever bounces back, you don't have a real picture, but you can create an artificial picture. And originally, we wanted to have it as a live box. And the reason why I call it live box was you can go with Apollo and basically read the heartbeat of people in the house. And we wanted to have it for the older generation, for ADP, maybe go to ADP or some other companies and say, hey, why don't you add this box to your offering? And you have some, first of all, you adhere to the privacy concerns because it's not a picture. it's a generated picture. It could be as detailed as you want, like in a video game, or it could be just a stick of a person. But then you could read the heartbeat, or you could see if somebody's in distress. But you could also use it to scan, to like mass surveillance. You could scan for guns. You could go in a concert and see if somebody faints in the group of 1,000 people in front of the stage. And there's so many other applications. So now we're working on different concepts, and obviously all of this is also AI controlled with our own Avant AI, where you see again the integration of new ideas and our extended technology already, and it's growing. And I think there will be a lot of future application for Apollo in all areas of security, safety, surveillance, maybe even car driving, or it's limitless. There's no limit.
Yes. Excellent. Well, I'm afraid that's all I have for questions for you today, Mansur. But before we part, is there anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to discuss?
Yeah, there's really not discussed, because this year we're still going to extend on our IP. We're going to grow our IP. Our shareholders here and there giving us good feedback of the things we're doing. We are performing well in this space, and we're building we're building protection around our IP, and it will take us this year probably till we are ready to go out to the market totally. But the sale to Tren is already a great success, and it basically shows now we just have to grab other technologies and bring them in front of larger companies, and hopefully this will happen by the end of the year. And that's it. Keep us in mind, have fun, go on our videos, check out the technology. Anybody who loves technology will love our patents. We have really great things, and I'm very passionate about it. I love it.
And that's it for today's AI. If you would like to be a guest or sponsor for this podcast, contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded all investment involves risk and possible loss of investment. To hear more InvestorIdeas.com podcasts, please visit InvestorIdeas.com/audio. And a reminder, you can also hear our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, and most audio platforms available. To learn more about GBT Technologies Inc., please visit gopherprotocol.com or visit the InvestorIdeas.com profile page at InvestorIdeas.com/co/GOPH. And for disclosure purposes, GBT Technologies is a PR, news, and social media featured company on InvestorIdeas.com.